You don't wake up to sunlight, no bird song, no smell of toasted bread, no gentle movie-like stretch. You wake up because someone kicked your butt. Get up, stinky sleeper. The guard's voice hits your eardrums like thunder. You scramble out of the dusty pile of straw you dare to call a bed, eyes burning, mouth dry like Athens in a drought. The straw bed, or more accurately, the makeshift straw pile, is the first test of willpower for every new soldier. Every time you turn, it crackles like it's chewing up your hope of sleeping enough. You lie down, straw poking your back, dust tickling your nose, and occasionally, a lost bedbug crawls across your ear. The guy next to you snores like a thunderstorm, and you realize that in a Greek barracks, waking up to snores or suspicious smells is an everyday occurrence. You try shifting positions, but the straw mattress feels like it's trying to strangle all your dreams, leaving behind a back full of slash marks and a completely lost mood. One time, you turned too hard and got straw dust in your eye, stinging till morning. So you lie still, listening to the night, the sigh of the soldier next to you, the creak of the straw, and, sometimes, your own tired groan. They say, Greek heroes sleep on horseback. You think, I just want to sleep on this straw and not feel like I'm climbing Mount Olympus. Noise is everywhere, and if you think ancient Greek barracks are quiet, you've clearly never heard armor clanging like someone's trying to roast chestnuts on an iron pan in the middle of the Athens marketplace. Far off, a soldier curses for dropping his helmet again, while another tugs his sandal strap and yells, "You see my sandal? Sandal's here, but my toe's missing." A group fights over the water barrel. Splashing sounds echo like frogs jumping into a pond. Someone hacks up phlegm, and another yells, "Hey! Don't spit in my helmet." In one corner, a lanky dude sneezes while off-key singing a war song, trying to hype himself up but making everyone laugh instead. At the far end, a rooster crows, unclear if it's real or just a soldier pretending for fun. Somewhere, someone mutters a prayer to Zeus for clear skies, mixed with a short laugh, a dream-muttered curse, and someone trying to play a flute made of reed. All of it forms a chaotic symphony, loud, hilarious, and making you feel like a true part of the most ridiculous army in Greek history. You yawn and smell your own feet. If you thought a Greek barracks was just loud, you were wrong. After the armor clanging, what really attacks you in the morning is the smell. Morning air is thick with fermented sweat, aged through many winters without bathing. There's the tang of worn leather, the sour musk of cowhide sandals older than their owners, and feet, the kind of smell that even Zeus would walk out on. Somewhere you catch a whiff of half-burnt firewood, mixed with mouldy straw and the nostalgic aroma of sandals that haven't seen sunlight in 3 months. Someone opens a tin of salted fish left over from yesterday, and another wave of scent joins the morning's sensory attack. You inhale, and it feels like fainting inside. A military stew pot, Suddenly you wonder, did Aphrodite ever visit a barracks like this? Or did she just sniff once and teleport back to Olympus? All these smells stick to your armor, your hair, and your thoughts, making you realize that being a Greek soldier doesn't just require courage, but also a strong nose and a superhuman ability to ignore reality. You yawn and smell your own feet again. Welcome to the Hoplite Barracks, where every morning is its own battle between you and your own body. Your hands are numb, your neck stiff, your heels are crying for help. You slept 4 hours. Your shoes haven't been washed in 4 months. You look around. One guy's wearing his helmet backward. Another is shaving with a rock. Another is quietly crying because he misses home. Or maybe he stepped on a thorn. No one asks if you're okay. No one cares if you slept. You're a soldier. And this morning, you have a duty. One no one's told you about yet. A young commander walks by, holding a goatskin clipboard. Nose sharp, voice sharper. Today's a perfect day for an ambush. Right after, like some bizarre ritual no one wants to join, the brass horn blares, dragging sighs from half the camp. Someone whispers, perfect day is when the commander doesn't wake up. But today's too perfect, and the commander is way too awake. He waves his hand, signaling the lineup. Form straight lines. Anyone sloppy this morning will sweep the courtyard all week. You glance over, see your friend wearing one sandal and one slipper. An old veteran behind you grumbles. Every perfect day means a new workout or surprise kitchen duty. The whole squad stumbles around, tightening tunics. Some still half-dressed. Everyone trembling under the commander's stern look, which, truth be told, mostly hides the fact he has no idea what today's plan actually is. You think, ambush who? But no one answers. Because around here, asking too much mubbin scrub the kitchen or get kicked out of formation. Once, a guy asked, why are we even fighting this battle? And now he's scrubbing pots somewhere near Sparta. You drag yourself to the water barrel. No mirror. So you check your face in the murky surface. You see a human. Puffy eyes. Beard like wild grass. Lips cracked like post-war farmland. You barely recognize yourself. You reach to splash your face. Then remember, yesterday morning. This was the foot washing bucket for the whole squad. You wipe your face with your sleeve. It smells like sweat, but it's better than nothing. Greek soldier gear is basically a series of mini challenges before you even face the enemy. Your day starts with threadbare underwear, the last soft thing you'll touch all day. Then comes a tunic stained with fish sauce from last night's dinner, followed by a waist sash washed with sandals all winter. Then comes the main event, a bronze breastplate stiff as your mother-in-law's cooking pot. Every time you wear it, it's a wrestling match with fate. You shove your head through the small hole, yank it down your chest, wiggle until it doesn't yank your hair out. Sometimes you need help because the back ties are always tangled like spider webs. Don't forget the bronze helmet. Always cold, always tight. And you pray it doesn't make you go bald. Sandals. These old cowhide things have seen more storms than Odysseus. They're like two elastic bands. Hermes dropped on his way to Olympus. You shove your feet in, wincing from the cold, the sand, the loose straps, and the fact that they never quite hold on to your hope for the day. Just getting dressed already burns 80% of your morning energy. You're sweating before the sun even rises. You strap on the armor. Every time is a weightlifting session. Heavy, cold, and sticky. Inside it, something damp and alive is lurking. You don't want to know what. You put on your shoes, leather straps loose, soles falling apart, feet screaming. You pick out a stone stuck under your heel, whispering, "I'm still alive. I still have my teeth." Then you look at your spear, twice your height. You sigh. Should have been a potter. A fellow soldier pats your back, grinning. Brace yourself. Might die today. Then he laughs. You laugh too. But no one finds it funny. You grab your shield and quietly merge into the line of men heading out of camp. Gravel crunches underfoot, morning wind cold like Hades' handshake. In the distance, dawn light glints off helmets in a blinding streak. No one yells. No one sings. Only footsteps, and your thoughts, quiet but clear. I wish I had 5 more minutes to sleep. There are things in life you never think you'll miss, until they're gone. For a Greek soldier, that is, the soles of his shoes and an actual mattress. In the morning, when you finally drag yourself out of the straw pile, the first thing you look for is your familiar cowhide sandals. They're not really shoes. They're 2 chewed-up pieces of leather barely hanging onto your feet with old rope. And the soles went back to the gods sometime after last year's battle. You slip your feet in, and the first feeling isn't comfort, but the cold, damp, and a bit of doubt whether today they'll rip even more. You try lifting your foot, and you hear the crunch. Rocks, sand, gravel all fighting to invade your soles. With these shoes, one long march and I'll be known as the man with no feet. You think to yourself, then chuckle quietly. But the chuckle stings as grains of sand sneak into every toe crevice, burning like reminders that no one in Athens gives a damn what frontline soldiers wear on their feet. Some get creative, stuffing in dry grass, scrap cloth, or an old belt strap to elevate the experience. The result? Every step brings a sad squish, along with the scent of a livestock pen. But creativity in a Greek barracks never stops at normal. One day, a group of soldiers even held a weirdest insult competition. One guy stuffed in fig leaves, claiming they were soft and fragrant, like walking through the Attican countryside. Another tried dried fish scales, hoping to both pad his steps and repel mosquitoes. A bold soul shoved in old parchment with poems from an ex-lover, comfy and no longer emotionally attached. And one even lined his sandals with hard cheese. By the end, he was hungry and ready to throw the shoes away. The result? At every time the squad marched, the flop squish, rustle, and crunch blended into a soundtrack that, from a distance, screamed, "Ah, the Greek soldiers are here." You look down at your feet and sigh. If Hermes came down here, even he couldn't run in these things. Maybe only a Greek soldier sees his feet as a diary. Every blister, every callus, every lost nail a line in a journal no one wants to write. After a day of marching, you take your sandals off and your feet look like a half-finished sculpture, swollen, red, some spots bleeding, some skin thickened like bark, but let a single grain of sand in, and it hurts like tears. You glance at your comrade's feet, no better, filthy, broken nails, scrapes like a failed campaign map of Greece. They say nobles at parties have feet that smell like roses. Ours smell like fish sauce left out too long. Sometimes you wonder if you'll even have enough toes left after the war to count how many times you actually got paid. At night, when everyone's lying quietly, you hear someone groan softly from heel pain. One guy clicks his tongue. Wish someone would invent a mattress for feet. You laugh, because deep down you know, of all the inventions of ancient Greece, none were made for the frontline soldiers' feet. And a mattress? Sorry, in the barracks, mattress is just a dream. But a mattress, or what the gods of Olympus call a mattress, in a Greek barracks, is really just anything you can gather without getting yelled at. Some gather torn shirts, some hoard old straw. One guy even wraps stones in leaves to avoid laying on cold dirt. Competing for a good spot is the nightly game. Early birds score dry straw underneath. Latecomers settle for a mouldy corner that blocks the wind. Some get so creative, they sleep on hard bread, mouldy and stiff in the morning, but better than just rocks and soil. Sometimes, the barracks has a mattress swap challenge. Whoever slept in the wettest spot gets first pick of dry straw the next night. And so begins the soldier chatter about DIY bedding, debating who's the most inventive, who's the true master of sleeping on dirt. At night, after a long day of dragging yourself around, no one falls asleep right away. Old and young soldiers gather in small groups, massaging their feet, starting the nightly pain Olympics that no one wants to win. Our one reminisces about a cotton mattress back home, soft as Hera's biceps. Another brags, "My wife used to stuff the mattress herself. Now all I've got is back pain." One guy asked his mom for a mattress, only received a torn piece of fabric, so he had to double the creativity. The conversation becomes a contest. Who has the worst back pain? Who slept longest on straw without getting a rash? Everyone has a tale of legendary sleep, all of them dreaming of goose feather beds, waking up without backaches. One guy even dreams of starting a business after the war, making insect-proof, tear-resistant mattresses for soldiers. Everyone laughs, but truth is, everyone just wants one decent mattress, even for a single night. You've gotten used to straw, to hard ground, to waking up with your back feeling like you just wrestled 3 rounds with a cyclops. On cold nights, only armor lines your spine. On rainy nights, all you have is faith that Zeus will cover you, somehow, Sometimes you glance at your comrade, curled up, foot on a shield, head on, a dry bread roll from last week. The lucky ones use an old tunic as a pillow, the unlucky ones just their own numb arm. Someone jokes, the nobles sleep on goose down. I sleep on tangled grass, dusty dreams, and hope. That fades the moment I open my eyes. At night, you lie there listening to the insects strumming under the straw, dreaming of a real mattress, dreaming of a day when your shoes have soles and no holes. But every morning, it's the same. You crawl back up, slip your feet into those poor sandals, and tell yourself, if I can still walk, I'm still alive. If my back still hurts, I've still earned the right to complain. And just like that, your tired feet take another step out of the barracks, into sunlight, sand, and another day full of orders, in an outfit where everything can fall apart, except your will. And a new morning, cold air creeping into every straw thread left on your shirt. You barely manage to stand when the horn calls for assembly. Before you can even chew through your dry bread, you're already swept into a line of weary figures marching like ants. No one talks, only the flapping of sandals, the clinking of armor, and the quiet sighs. Every step is a challenge. Pebbles stab the soles. Sand floods your sandals. Cold wind slices through the torn gaps in your armor. You look down, see your feet marked by old scars, aching, stinging, and emotionally numb. Marching in the phalanx isn't poetic either. The guy in front walks slow, the one behind pushes, and occasionally, the long spear of the guy behind nudges your butt. Every time that happens, you whisper, being a Greek soldier, it's less about enemies and more about suffering thanks to your buddies. To kill time, and partly to kill foot pain, young soldiers compete on who can scream loudest whenever they step on a big rock. Every ow, my foot, sets off a ripple of giggles, though even the laughter is dry and tired like desert sand. Some walk and count steps, get to 100, then forget, asking, hey, how many miles now? No clue. I've counted my foot pain 18 times though. Sometimes, the group even composes parody songs, singing about torn sandals, heavy armor, or a commander yelling almost there when there's still 3 hills left. The sleepy ones close their eyes and walk, breathing like dragons puffing smoke. Sometimes, a guy in the back pokes his buddy's butt with his spear before he can cuss. Someone shouts, whoever gets speared in the butt tonight skips guard duty. Everyone laughs, then quietly returns to their own little fears. But honestly, nothing's as weird and dangerous as the long spear syndrome. Every march, the squad connects with these absurdly long spears. Just one careless guy, and you're gifted a surprise jab to a place no one wants to mention. Sometimes the whole squad has to stop to untangle the mess, because one wrong move sends spears into legs, butts, or shields, like a failed game of ancient Tetris. If someone gets jabbed too hard, he skips guard duty that night, a medical leave reward. And someone always jokes, with these things, The enemy doesn't need to kill us. Our own spears will cripple us first. The fear of the long spear will haunt your soldier days, and someday, all you wish for is to swap it for a spoon. At least it's safer for your friends, but among this ocean of shuffling feet, the biggest fear for young soldiers isn't pain, it's losing the formation. Everyone has a survival trick. Some tie bright cloth to their sleeves so friends can spot them. Others carry a special pebble in their pocket, counting turns with each one. Some even carve tiny marks on a buddy's armor, in case they get too sleepy. At least they'll recognize a familiar sign every time they climb a hill or descend a slope. Veterans joke, "Get lost and you'll be a solo legend. No food for you tomorrow." Everyone laughs, but secretly, the fear is real. Fall out of sync, and you might get left behind. No one wants to become the dinner table joke. No matter how much your back aches or feet burn, the fear of being left behind makes everyone push themselves just a little faster, just to stay within the stream, and not become the wandering myth of the Greek landscape, to keep the mind from sinking into despair. Many soldiers invent games just to survive each step. Some groups count steps. Anyone who messes up tells a bad joke or yells a commander insult for the group to hear. Others write silly songs, singing about their aching heels, their dreams of new shoes or a real meal. Some are so sleepy they walk with their eyes shut, just praying not to fall. The alert ones stare at the sky, calculating how many handspans the sun must rise before they reach rest. But the sun always rises faster than soldier feet. And so the line echoes with breathing, random humming, weak laughter, and spontaneous jokes, anything to keep morale from crumbling on the long march ahead. Every few miles, someone moans about sore feet, another groans about their aching back, and a few even start reciting sad poems. The old ones share tales. Back when I was young, I walked from Marathon to Athens with feet intact. Now I walk 10 miles, and only my despair is intact. But that's just the beginning. True hunger hits midway through the march. You walk as your stomach growls like war drums, staring at your buddy's bronze helmet thinking it's fresh-baked bread. One soldier whispers a poem about his fantasy feast. If I had a wedge of cheese and a jug of wine, I swear I'd forgive every rock on earth. A little longer, and minds start blurring. A tree's shadow becomes a roasted goat. Some count their steps, some count hunger pangs, others count sighs. Every thought of lunch tempts you to lie flat on the ground and call it quits. The hunger slows the pain, but multiplies the food hallucinations. Sweat starts to drip, but the cold stays cold. Armor sticks to your back like it's glued with meat paste. You try to march evenly, breathing in rhythm, silently wondering how much longer till rest. Sunrise comes, casting long shadows of men on rocky paths, dragging behind unspoken worries. Fear creeps in, quiet and persistent like pebbles underfoot. Fear of losing the squad, fear of tripping, fear of sudden orders from the commander, and worst of all, fear that someone might notice you're afraid. Sometimes, you glance at the far mountains and sigh. Surely the gods on Olympus never have to step on sharp rocks like this. You wonder, if not for glory, for honor, for the hope of going home. Would anyone endure this just to become a name on a list? After each stretch, the commander shouts, "Keep going." Almost there. But the ancient Greek almost there is always 3 times farther than reality. You march, smirking. Almost there is when my feet detach from my body. Stomach empty, feet aching, eyes burning from wind and dust. You keep walking, quietly fading into the sluggish stream of bodies, just to live one more day and prepare for a battle. You're not sure you'll wake up for tomorrow, and so marching isn't just about getting from point A to B, but a silent conversation between willpower, fear, and sandals with no soles. After a whole morning of dragging your feet over rocks, your stomach starts beating war drums louder than the signal horn. Finally, when the commander yells, "Stop! Lunch!" the entire troop reacts like they've just received a gift from Zeus. But just a second later, you remember, Zeus's gifts sometimes come as lightning bolts. You plop down on a rock, take off your sandals, your feet numb like they've been cursed by Medusa. Your hand fumbles through your pouch, struggling to pull out a loaf of bread. If that thing can even be called bread, then you might as well believe pebbles can grow wheat. Ancient Greek soldier bread isn't like anything you've ever eaten. It's harder than faith in a victory order, pitch dark, dense, and, if you're lucky, you won't have to share it with ants who somehow got in there first. You try to break it. It snaps with a crack like you just broke an ancient olive branch. You try to bite, your teeth tremble, your gums cry for help, and your stomach temporarily postpones its strike. But in the camp, no one suffers alone, so the young soldiers invent a contest. Who can chew bread the longest? Some dip the bread in water to soften it, chewing while counting crunch, crunch. Whoever chews the longest without breaking a tooth gets the ultimate reward, a sympathetic pat on the shoulder. One guy chews too hard, has to stop halfway to massage his jaw, and the whole group bursts out laughing. If you can keep eating that thing, you should go to Athens and get sculpted as a god. Everyone chews and laughs, blaming the army cook as the future of the construction industry. What we thought was food turned out to be high-level willpower training equipment. A buddy next to you breaks his bread while wistfully saying, "Back home, our bread's soft like Hera's chest. Here, probably Achilles' heel." Someone pulls out a piece of old cheese, greenish, yellowish, and smells like a love letter left too long before reaching Hades. They share tiny bits, everyone chewing slowly, trying to imagine they're feasting in Athens. Soon I'll eat fresh grapes, drink wine, have grilled fish. When in reality, you've got one piece of bread, a far-off dream, and some straw stuck to your shirt. If lucky, someone might score some onion, turnip, or leftover salted fish from yesterday. Everyone's eyes sharpen, just waiting for someone to slip up and offer just a bite, even if it's just half a spring onion bulb. In camp, the art of food begging rivals the tricks of the Athens marketplace. Everyone chews while eyeing each other's rations. If someone lets down their guard, immediately, "Hey, just give me a tiny piece." One guy even bargains. Give me a bit of cheese and I'll tell a joke for the whole squad. Sometimes a sliver of onion is traded for a secret confession or an oath of honor. Anything to get a little more flavor in the mouth. Eyes sharpen, measuring someone else's food more carefully than phalanx gaps during battle. Many times, the whole group chews in silence like a psychological standoff. Who will give in first? Who will protect the last bite till the bitter end? Someone even invents passwords for food. Share with me, and I promise not to snore tonight. But everyone knows, share or not, the camp will still echo with snores. Only the stomach will still be empty. A young soldier mumbles while chewing. If this doesn't turn me into a philosopher, I don't know what will. Chewing this stuff makes you question the meaning of life, especially when bread is as hard as your fate. When everyone's done eating and stomachs are still growling, you look up at the sky, hoping an olive might drop on your head for a change in flavor. Sometimes you try sharpening the bread on a rock. Sometimes you hide half to chew later at night, just to have something to nibble on. Lunch ends without any real aftertaste, just breadcrumbs around your lips, homesickness around your heart, and a tiny fragile hope that maybe tomorrow's meal will be a bit softer. And so, everyone straps their sandals back on, stands up, gets back in formation, ready for an afternoon of aching feet, empty bellies, and souls as wistful as breadcrumbs drifting on the Greek countryside breeze. Maybe the biggest question every Greek soldier asked at the end of a long day wasn't, "How do I survive?" but, "How long has it been since I last bathed?" You look at yourself, hair stuck to your forehead, armor blotched with salt stains from sweat, and your skin has taken on the tone of gravel. In the camp, the word hygiene is just a fond memory. What's left is your existence and your own unique stench. No bathhouses, no clean water, no soap, and definitely no such thing as privacy. You clean yourself by brushing sand off your body, wiping your hands on your shirt, or sneakily splashing your face with your drinking water, then drinking it anyway. Some days, the whole camp joins in on a wind bath, standing in the middle of the field, lifting shirts so the breeze can blow off some dust, and hoping Apollo isn't watching from above. Rare rainy days turn into camp-wide shared joy-misery festivals. Everyone cheers like kids, some using their bronze helmets to catch rain, others running around just to rinse off the grime, shouting mid-shower, "Zeus, give us 5 more minutes of rain." Afterwards, everyone gets a cold, but laughs. First time all week I couldn't smell myself. Old soldiers are lazy. Young ones are worried. Did you bathe? I did. Bathed in my own sweat. Everyone bursts out laughing, then goes back to marinating in their own scent. What's called shampoo is just a handful of dry sand. Every few days, you find yourself scratching your head like a summer puppy, dust misting into the air. Some try to tuck fragrant leaves into their hair, hoping to mask the stench, but nothing beats the signature smell of camp life. Clothes. Everyone has one set, washed and worn before it's dry. smelling stronger than fried onions in an Athens street stall. One guy jokes, "Every time I take off my shirt, even the wind god avoids me." Some old soldier starts a contest. Whoever has the smelliest armor gets night watch off, since no one wants to be near them. Everyone brags about their odor innovations, ancient sweat, rotting straw, or salted fish from lunch. The winner is always the guy who's never washed his gear since the campaign began. Sometimes, legends circulate about Hermes socks. Smell it once and you'll be wide awake all night. Young soldiers share tips like hanging boots outside the camp to air them out. But by morning, only one boot's left. One hopeful romantic dreams aloud. If I survive and make it home, I swear I'll build a private bathhouse, lock the door, and let no one borrow it. Hot days turn the camp into a smell banquet. Human stench, sand, old armor, and lunch still clinging to beards. And everyone complains about each other's stink. But let's be honest, we're all the main source. At night, old soldiers tell jokes. Greece used to be clean until we arrived, and the sanitation gods packed up and left. The group laughs, knowing full well they'll sleep in their same old stink. And strangely, no one minds anymore. In the end, being a Greek soldier means learning to accept you're slowly fermenting. Sometimes you wonder if there's truly a god of cleanliness. They've probably emigrated. And yet, everyone gets used to it. The smell of sweat, dust, and wind blends into a warrior's own perfume until night falls, and the entire camp drifts asleep in a scent that has no name. At last, the highlight of hoplite life, phalanx formation. You think phalanx means the legendary, unbeatable formation of ancient Greece. You're wrong. To you, it means days of hauling a back-breaking spear, crammed in a forest of butts and shields. You're ordered to line up straight, but it's never straight, because for every 3 men, one holds their spear crooked, one holds it backward, and one is half asleep. You stand inches behind your comrade, your spear tip just a handspan away from their backside. If anyone moves too suddenly, your spear taps exactly where no one wants to be tapped. Some poor guy in front snaps every 5 minutes, "Hey, watch it." I signed up for war, not to be impaled by my own team. When the war drum sounds, the whole formation moves like a sleepy giant snake. You try to match pace, but your spear's too long. The guy in front has a dynamic rear end. 1 step, you sigh. 2 steps, you pray no one stops suddenly. One day, a young soldier gets creative and plants his spear in the ground to scratch his leg. Instantly, the whole row crashes like a runaway train. Swearing erupts like a festival market riot. And don't forget the shield, heavy, round, and with a habit of slipping from your hand when you zone out. If someone drops their shield, chaos erupts. Everyone scrambles, the line shatters, and the commander just sighs. You call this a formation? You want to go to war like this? Under the blazing sun, sweat streams down, and you feel like a sardine crammed in a tin. The guy in front yawns, the guy behind groans, and spears keep gently tapping on butts. The signature sound of a Greek phalanx, sometimes in the middle of battle, you'll hear a shout, "Who lost a shoe?" or "Whose spear just jabbed my foot?" These screams don't boost morale, just snap you a little more awake. And then there are unspeakable moments, when the line bunches up and a loud pfft echoes through the ranks. No one turns, no one takes the blame. Just a breeze passes by, carrying a silence, loaded with dread. Someone whispers, "If I die in this battle, please let it not be from friendly fire, of the gastrointestinal kind." And so, amid swaying formations, you realize there's a silent syndrome, spear misalignment. There are even whispered secret signals passed down. They say, if the commander sniffs, it means turn right, sneezes, stop, scratches his head, turn back. Problem is, no one confirmed this. So when someone actually scratches their head, the line halts. Some turn, some walk on, some crouch to tie their sandal, thinking it's a bow signal. Once, the whole line tilted left because one soldier coughed twice. Everyone assumed it meant dodge arrows, but the guy just choked on leftover breakfast bread. Young recruits wield spears like flagpoles, flailing them around. No clue which side is front or back. Spears jab left, poke right, even tangle with their own. The commander screams, "Hold that spear like that again and go join ballet." This is a battlefield, not dance rehearsal. One time, someone stuck their spear into the dirt, then forgot, causing the whole row behind to topple like dominoes. Groans rang from end to end, mixed with giggles too tired to be angry. There's one golden rule passed from veteran to rookie, not about how to use a spear, but where to look. Look at the guy's butt in front. Don't look at the enemy. Trust me, if you lose focus, you'll stab someone or fall onto their butt. Really, your eyes now follow the back ahead, not out of love, but survival. Steps must sync. Breathing must match. And above all, don't step on the guy's heel. One slip and the whole row becomes a tangled pile of armor and pointy sticks. Eventually, after many rounds of bumping and clanking, you realize the real enemy of the Greek soldier wasn't Persia, wasn't arrows. It was your comrade's spear and eternal back pain. And yet, in all this chaos, you still stand because you're a Greek soldier. You've grown used to sweat, clashing shields, and that morning tap of a spear on your backside. You raise your eyes to the front, silently thinking, just let me not poke anyone's butt when we charge, and if I die, please let it be in battle, not from falling face first in the middle of this phalanx mess. The drums are pounding, not a motivational beat, but your heart being forced to speed up. You've heard about battles hundreds of times. You've trained hundreds of times under the sun, in the wind, through dust. But no training ever prepared you for the moment when you see the enemy line approaching, and you haven't even tied your sandals properly, just before the horn sounds. A soldier behind you blurts out, not something heroic, but, "I'm not afraid to die. I'm just scared of face planting in front. My teeth are brand new, freshly carved in Athens." No one laughs out loud, but you notice a few mouths twitch. In moments of life and death, maybe the dumbest joke is the most honest one. On your left. Another voice cracks out, raspy, like it's been sanded down by fear and dust. Damn it, these sandals are borrowed. If I'd known I was dying today, I would have worn my good ones. You're not sure if he's joking, but a few heads nod, not because they agree, but because they're all checking their own sandals now. Smoke from the fire pit swirls in the wind, mixing the scent of burning wood, sweat, and skin into a storm of smells. You stand in the middle of it, trying to open your eyes, and the first thing you see isn't the enemy, it's the trembling gaze of the man beside you. He's the one who told you about an old lover last night. Now he's shaking like a leaf, spear quivering like a wineglass in a drunk hand, and you realize no one is ready to die. No one is truly calm enough to say, "I'm okay if today's my last." Someone shouts a slogan. Someone else vomits up breakfast porridge. Someone's breathing like their lungs are folding in, fumbling with one shoulder strap. You say nothing. You just grip your spear tighter, like your hand is the only part of you still loyal to your body. And just then, you hear a strange whisper from the line beside you. A string. If I still have this string in my hand after the fight, it means Apollo wants me to live. You glance over. The young soldier is clutching a tiny string, hand trembling, sweat dripping on it until it's a soggy mess. Even if it doesn't fall, you're not sure it'll survive in one piece. An older soldier behind you sighs. Tell Hermes to prep the chariot. His soul's probably catching an early ride. You don't laugh, but suddenly, your fear has a name. Faith. When nothing else is left to hold on to, your heartbeat syncs with the war drums, and each beat feels like fate knocking at your door. You hear the enemy's footsteps, like a black tide rolling in. You can't see their faces, but you see spears, shields, the glint of sunlight bouncing off iron like a divine warning. One silent second, one desperate inhale, and then a fly. Of course, it hovers, like it got drafted too. Buzzes around your head, lands right on your nose as you're trying to breathe deeply to calm yourself. You swat at it. It flies to your left, then comes back. You mutter, unsure if you're scolding it or the absurdity of life. What do you want, huh? Wait till we finish fighting, then come back and die like a proper war fly. The guy next to you suppresses a laugh. A breath escapes, not from lungs, but from the last thing that makes you human, sarcasm. An unspoken curse blankets the field. If anyone turns back, there'll be no home left to return to. And then, the horn blares. You step forward. You are no longer yourself. You are a wall. You are a wave of spears. You are the dance of death in Greek armor. And every leftover fear gets trampled into the dirt. You smell yourself. Not the fresh out of the bath kind. More like mold, cooked by sun. Charred flesh under bronze. Feet that have been slow boiled in leather. That smell is you, all of you. A Greek cologne that nobody asked for in a bottle. You regret laughing at the guy who used bark spray perfume. Now you'd kill for a single mint leaf, just to lie to yourself that you don't reek bad enough to knock out a horse. You thought battles were heroic moments, where you'd slay the enemy in a single glorious strike. Instead, You hear someone crash behind you. A soldier falls like a banana tree in a storm. Not from a wound, from a cramp. He shouts mid-fight, "My leg! My leg's attacking me!" No one stops. But someone glances at their own legs, wondering when their body will turn traitor too. Your calves are twitching like hungry kids forced to memorize poetry. Every step is a negotiation between your brain screaming forward and your legs replying, "Try me." You're no longer the driver of your body, just the unlucky passenger in a runaway cart. You pray, you bargain, and you keep moving because you have no other choice. Just standing upright feels like winning. You drop your helmet and don't dare pick it up, not because of the enemy, but because if you bend down, you may never stand again. Out the corner of your eye, another soldier's shoulder strap slips. He turns to you, eyes wide with helplessness, whispering like he's asking to borrow a comb. "Could you adjust my strap, please?" You nod slightly. Use your spear to nudge it back in place. A small move, but both of you sigh like you've just won a mini battle inside the big one. Sweat seeps through your underclothes, your armor, rolls down your side, and mixes with blood from a cut you didn't notice. Your legs, two slabs of meat shrieking in silence, can't tell skin from muscle, pain from pressure. Screams, metal clashing, flesh tearing, all combining into one symphony, where you're the off-key flute in the middle of a battlefield orchestra. A figure charges towards you. You react purely on instinct, stab without thinking. The spear grazes their shoulder, maybe enemy, maybe friend. You're not sure. You just know. They're still standing. And you're not dead yet. Your hands shake. Your shoulders go numb. Your vision blurs. You can't tell if it's your blood or someone else's splattered across your face. You breathe fast, but the air stinks. Dust, rust, heat, and ground up despair. You know you're not dead because your legs still hurt, your hands still tremble, and your heart still pounds like someone's beating a drum from the inside. But you're not sure you're alive because time, space, and your own body no longer make sense. You don't remember how many swings you've made or how many strikes you've dodged. Your sandals slipping, one foot barefoot, the other hanging on by a prayer string. Still, you don't stop, because you know if you sit in a battlefield, you become a brick, and no one picks up bricks mid-war. So you walk, barefoot, through dust, blood, and something soft you pray isn't a person. You think, as long as I don't step on someone else's spear, I'm doing okay. At one point, your own spear slips. You pick it up with your teeth because your hands no longer listen. You bite it, lift it. Blood from your lips mixes with whatever was already there, and you rejoin the line. No one saw. No one cheered. There are no heroes here. Only soldiers, clinging to life with one breath, one step, one look that still has light in it. You thought you'd retreat in formation like a flock of swans doing ballet. But in reality, the formation looked more like a snake being stomped on the head. The guy in front veered left, the one behind circled right. Someone turned straight toward the enemy and only realized their mistake after screaming. Retreat where? In desperation. A soldier with blood on his nose, no one knew whose blood, ran while asking, "We're winning, right?" No one answered. Someone else shouted back, "Shut up and keep moving." I can't even breathe, let alone talk. You looked around and wondered, is anyone leading, or are we all just following the scent of instinct? You imagined retreat would look like a play, trumpets blaring, everyone pulling back in order, making room for the tragic finale. Reality. You turned around and ran, or more accurately, dragged yourself. Your legs weren't muscles anymore. They were two floppy sticks. You hadn't dropped your weapon, but your arms didn't have the strength to lift it either. You couldn't see anything beyond smoke and shadows. You couldn't hear anything but your own breathing, like dragging air through a dying kiln. Someone behind you shouted, but you couldn't make out the words. You only knew one thing. If you stopped, you'd fall. And if you fell, no one had the strength to pick you up. You weren't afraid of getting stabbed. You were afraid of being left behind like a half-cooked lump of fat on the road. Someone collapsed. Someone else got trampled. And no one stopped. You passed them not because you were heartless, but because you were about to fall too. A soldier was crying as he ran, not from pain, but because his pants had ripped at some point, and now he was retreating with his butt exposed. No one laughed, but no one blamed him either. Everyone understood. Dignity was the first thing thrown away on the battlefield. You heard an old man screaming from behind. "Retreat where?" "Where are you idiots going?" No one answered. Because no one knew. Just run, and be tired, and keep running. You thought, if there's a guardian god watching over you, he's probably just sitting there going, "I'll keep you alive, but how you live, I'm not guaranteeing that." You didn't collapse from a spear. You dropped because your heart was beating too fast and your legs stopped translating brain commands. Someone was mumbling like a mantra. One more step, one more step, one more step, as if saying it enough would make the body listen. You mumbled along, not because you believed, but because if you didn't say something, you burst into tears. Another soldier screamed, "I swear I'm going home." "I still have fish at the market. I haven't paid for it yet." You didn't know if the fish was still alive, but you hoped he was right. You saw it, a big rock up ahead, not a fort, no flag, no guard, but it looked solid, real. You staggered toward it like a dying man spotting a mirage spring. One step, then another, each one a negotiation with a body in despair. You reached it, collapsed like a crumbling building. No one praised you. No one even looked. But for you, that moment was heaven, even if it was just a rock. You closed your eyes for a second, then opened them and saw others sitting down, gasping for air. No one said anything, but you all thought the same thing. "Please, don't make us stand up again. I'll keep you alive, but how you live, I'm not guaranteeing that." Night falls like a blanket, full of holes. Wind slices through the cloth. Sand hits your eyes, and you're sitting on a rock, biting into bread as hard as ancestral stone. rations baked under the sun 3 days ago. You chew, not because it's good, but because if your mouth isn't doing something, it might scream. Some nibble like it's their last feast. Some bang the bread on stone to see which breaks first. Others just hold it in their mouths like a silent riddle. Why am I still here? You glance around. A young soldier scribbles something in the dirt with a stick. No one can read it. Another is tying his armor strap to patch up a shoe. A cough sounds, dry, tired, like the voice of a lost soul between two battles. You take a second bite. Your teeth protest. You can't even remember what your last dinner at home was, only that it was warm and sand-free. A voice rises from the edge of camp, low, not necessarily wise. If we die tomorrow, why eat bread today? No one answers. But you know everyone heard. You smack your lips, put the bread down. You ask yourself, not for the first time, but harder than ever, why am I still here? You survived. But for what? To chew hardtack under the stars and wonder if any god remembers your name. Someone taps you. It's the old soldier, the one who told you to talk to your legs to beat cramps. He hands you a sip of water, not cold, not clean, but water. You drink and feel, for just 1 second, that you haven't vanished. That even if battle is shared madness, you are still someone who feels hunger, thirst, and memory. That night, you don't cry, but you don't sleep either. You just lie there, listening to your own breath among the crowd. Each beat, each tremble, like a gentle whisper. Tomorrow hasn't come yet. Today is still now, and I'm still alive. There is no yelling, no comrades screaming each other's names through the smoke. Only sunlight, the smell of grape pastries your mother used to bake, and the soft lullaby of someone long gone. In the dream, you're no longer a soldier, you're just a child, and that alone calms everything down. No more rusted metal smell, no more sweat trapped in the padding of your armor. The only scent is your mother's hair, an old pillow, ripe grapes, the scent of memory. You feel yourself begin to breathe again, gently, deeply, not to survive, but to truly live. You didn't fall asleep because you were tired. Your body simply shut off without asking. The sleep isn't peaceful, but it arrives, quietly, like the last century of your mind lowering the curtain. And then, you see a pale golden light. Not fire, not sunlight, but the kind of glow you once knew as a child, running barefoot through the backyard, when your mother called you in to eat grapes. You hear your mother's voice, very faintly. You're back, aren't you? You don't answer. No need. You see your hands clean, no dust, no blood, no calluses, just the same hands that once peeled grapes and sucked the sweetness. There's no smell of armor, no clashing steel, only soft wind, dry straw, and your mother's eyes looking at you like nothing ever happened. You don't want to wake up. You don't want to return to a place where people fight on command, eat bread as hard as stone, and laugh with chipped teeth. But then, a cough cracks the dream. Then a voice calling, a cold breeze, and finally, the musty smell of damp animal hide. You open your eyes. It's still night, still the battlefield, but you know that dream was real, inside you. And you think, if I can still dream, I'm not dead yet. You wake up feeling like you haven't slept enough to be awake. Eyes open, grey sky, everything so quiet you think you're lying in a grave warmed only by the smell of your comrade's feet. A small sound, then a voice shouting, "Form up." New orders from the general. You haven't figured out what day it is in this war, but your heart sinks like a soaked bowstring. New orders, which means no rest, which means more marching, more spears, more dust, more yelling. You sit up, but your back doesn't listen. Your thighs protest, and your spirit simply walks away like an ex who didn't leave a note. A man next to you smiles, a toothless smile, lost in the last battle. He says, if you're breathing, you've got to obey, right? You nod. But something inside you isn't whole anymore. Not broken, not cracked, just hollow, like the sound a gong makes inside a half-shattered vase. You look at your spear, still long, still heavy, still no one to help you carry it. You stand up, and in that moment, you know, you're no longer someone who fights. You're just what's left after all the battles of yesterday. You don't cry, don't curse, don't resist. You just put on your armor, tighten the straps, and walk, as if your heart stayed behind in last night's dream, by the great bowl, and your mother's voice whispering, "Don't go too far." There is no cheering. No one bangs their spear on the ground to celebrate survival. Only a silence, thick like morning fog, heavy like the hollow stares of those still here. You see their eyes, not red, not weeping, just empty, as if their souls had left early, and no one told the bodies yet. One man peels off his armor, like shedding a nightmare with no end. Another undoes the leather ties round his ankles, but his eyes stay fixed on the space ahead, as if counting the names he dares not speak. You sit among them. No one speaks, because anything said now would be wrong, would be too much, like wishing good health to someone already gone. A young soldier, hair still too short to tie back, exhales a single word. Where are they? No one answers. Because if someone does, someone else will collapse. The silence isn't from lack of words, but because language can't carry what was lost. And in that moment, you realize, sometimes surviving hurts more than dying. You look at your hands, still shaking, still stained with dried blood. But you don't wipe them. You leave them be, a quiet vow you won't forget. Not the fallen, not the one who shouted your name through war drums, not the laughter that once rose among those who never thought they'd come home. You say nothing, you just breathe, and that breath is your last form of resistance against the forgetting that's closing in on everything. You sit alone, under a sunset veiled by dust and exhaustion. No paper, no ink, but you write in your head. A letter no one will read, but it's the only thing keeping you human. Dear Mother, you begin, though no words come from your lips. I'm still alive, but I'm not the same as when I left. You tell her about the meals made of rubble, about the nights without sleep, the mornings you didn't want to wake up, about shoes with no soles, and dreams that smelled like her hair. You don't tell her about the friends you've lost, because you don't know if her heart can bear it, like you can't bear to write it. Maybe I won't come back, you think, but if someday you see someone walk by, smiling sadly and staring at the sky a bit too long, maybe that's the part of me left in this world. You don't sign it. Who signs letters from a battlefield? You just breathe, fold the invisible letter, place it on your chest, and hope the wind will carry it home, to where there's no armor, no spears, only ripe grapes and your mother's hands that smell like hay. Next story, Cupid and Psyche, when love doesn't need a nose. You know, in ancient Greece, beauty wasn't just a joke. It wasn't just a gift from the gods. It was something that could make the gods jealous. Ours in ancient Greece, the concept of beautiful wasn't like today. No face-tuning apps, no divine glow, flawless porcelain skin filters. Everything raw, like freshly squeezed goat cheese. What were the beauty standards back then? As skin as pale as marble, the closer to stone, the more elegant. A unibrow, cultural unity between the two temples. A long, pointed nose, the more it jutted out, the more aristocratic. And wide shoulders, not to look sexy, but to carry amphoras of water for the family. In that world, Psyche wasn't just beautiful. She was a system glitch, breaking all the codes of classical aesthetics. Not pale, but rosy. Not blunt, but delicate. Not burdened shoulders, but ones that leaned like a breeze could hug them. In short, Psyche was the type of beauty ahead of her time, yet still managed to leave all of Olympus stunned. A kind of beauty, like an iOS 19 update on granite stone. Nobody understood it, but everyone stared. And when you, a mere mortal, happen to possess the full combo, glowing skin, fragrant hair, a smile that causes minor earthquakes, do you know what happens next? The gods start Googling who you are. There was once a princess, not the shrouded in legend kind. Her name was Psyche, which means soul, a name so fragrant you'd think someone was inhaling divine breezes from Olympus just by saying it. But the thing is, she was beautiful. Not the cute and smart, or Olympia village sweetheart type. She was so beautiful. She made people forget Venus, the goddess of beauty and love, who had once ruled every ancient poster and shrine. They built statues of Psyche. They offered flowers to Psyche. They even whispered prayers to this mortal girl instead of the certified goddess. But it wasn't just the gods who got annoyed. People who loved beauty but also loved drama started picking sides. Some set up altars for Psyche, burning incense and begging to borrow her vibes. Others murmured, "Think she got cosmetic surgery?" Blessed by gods or beauty procedures, and Psyche's two older sisters. At first, they clapped along. Our baby sister's famous. How cute. But slowly, their comments became, that dress looks pretty basic. Her chin's kinda sharp, huh? Must be the lighting. One sister married a bald merchant with a belly like a wine barrel, who only talked about goat prices and olive oil every night. The other married a stiff old noble who moved like a turtle trying to dance at a Dionysian rave. Meanwhile, Psyche, unmarried, untouched, hadn't even breathed heavily next to anyone, was being hailed as a living goddess. Who wouldn't be jealous? They didn't say it, but their eyes said enough. If this little sister doesn't suffer, then Greek justice clearly has a bug. And then the people began copying her, not just praying. They spread gossip about dressing like Psyche, walking like Psyche, even breathing in sync with Psyche like she was the new moon cycle. Some families paid sculptors to carve busts of her, placing them in the yard so your skin glows and hair shines just by looking at her. Some areas even started naming daughters Little Psyche, hoping to channel divine-level beauty. Psyche never called herself divine, but through word of mouth, she was being canonized. No voting necessary. And somewhere up on Olympus, a cloud started to boil. Now imagine a goddess, proud, immortal, with a perfect figure from every angle, getting dethroned by a mortal girl with no divine power. Just a heavenly side profile and a smile strong enough to knock down the Parthenon. No need to say it. Venus was fuming. But don't get it twisted. Venus wasn't your petty, jealous type. She was a goddess, beautiful and surgical with her power. Like an artist peeling an apple. No wasted slices, no blood, just enough to make you shiver. She had once driven mortals mad, made gods scramble over each other like kids fighting over mooncakes. And now, a mere mortal being praised like divinity? No, absolutely not. This wasn't just a personal insult. It was a cosmic disruption. And for Venus, order was the only thing more beautiful than herself. Venus was angry, and when Venus gets angry, Olympus buzzes, not just jealousy. It was a declaration of war. She immediately summoned Cupid, her own son, master of the bow, baby-faced but mischievous like the devil. Listen, son, Psyche is ruining my market. Make her fall in love with some broke fool who'll drag her through a life of misery. She dares to cause chaos in my house. Cupid, usually working with others' hearts, not used to facing his own. Let's rewind a bit. Cupid, son of Venus, wasn't just some vague god of love. He was trained like an emotional special ops agent. Morning, target practice for emotional precision. Afternoon, lessons on telling real love from short-term infatuation. Evening, advanced theory on the human heart, like how to crush on someone without being caught. He once shot Hephaestus by accident, making him write love poems to a rock, and made Apollo compose music for a tree for 3 straight years. And the first rule Cupid ever learned was never fall for a mortal, because mortals die, because love turns to grief, and because Venus, will skin you alive. Until Cupid descended to earth, he saw Psyche sitting alone by a well, gazing at the sky, unaware she was about to get tangled in a story with no escape. Cupid raised his bow. The golden arrow glowed in the sunset. He aimed and fainted. That beauty wasn't meant for games. It was the kind that makes the god of love lose form. Cupid lit the arrow in his hand, but the fire in his chest had started long before. And just like that, Cupid, Venus's son, had shot himself in the heart with his own arrow. He returned to Olympus, stunned, disoriented, pretending to call Zephyrus, "Bring her to my secret palace. No one must know. No one must see. Only Psyche and the faint lights in the hovering palace." This wasn't Poseidon's palace, glowing with coral and ocean breeze. Nor was it Athena's, filled with books and cold light. This was a world hidden among the clouds, where every sound echoed from elsewhere, distant but familiar. Walls made of glowing stone, veiled in silver mist, hallways curved like unawakened dreams. Lamps burned without fire, curtains floated without wind. Every room was an emotional space. This one made you want to lie down and miss someone you haven't met yet. That one stirred memories that were never real. Psyche didn't understand why she wasn't scared. She didn't know where she was. She only felt like she had belonged there once. And then came the first night. Cupid stood at the door for a long time. Not because of shyness, but conflict. One side, his mother's warning. Love with mortals only brings trouble. The other, the whisper of his heart. But she's waiting. He recalled the drills, Venus's constant advice. Love is something we control, not something we fall into. But tonight, Cupid wasn't the archer. He was the string, pulled taut by the very thread of the heart. Cupid fluttered his wings softly, stepped in quietly. And for the first time in his life, the god of love had shaky hands. He didn't let her see him. Only when darkness fully wrapped the room did he dare to come close, like a silent dream. Psyche, unaware of his face, only felt warm breath above her hair, felt a gentle hand holding hers like it had known her across lifetimes. No words were spoken, but the silence that night wasn't frightening. It felt like two souls learning to hear each other without language. And in that first night's sleep, they loved each other with a loneliness that had finally been filled. Because he knew this woman would be either a disaster or eternity. He didn't sleep that night. He lay there, listening to Psyche's every breath like someone hearing an unwritten symphony. A few times, he almost spoke, but stopped, afraid of breaking something as delicate as cobwebs in morning mist. There was a moment when Cupid wondered, could I live forever without ever looking into her eyes? But the next second, he smiled in the dark. Maybe true love doesn't need light, and he didn't know whether to call that a blessing or a curse. From that moment on, Psyche, the mortal girl who didn't know she had married a god, began a life that felt like a dream, but one filled with hidden corners. Every morning she woke, everything was already in place. lightly scented perfume, steaming hot food, dresses soft as mist, but not a soul in sight. The wedding had no feast, no guests, only whispering winds and the bed draped in velvet. The palace had no servants, but everything was served. A glass of wine rose to her hand when she reached. A table was set when she walked toward it. A gentle voice echoed from the air. "Welcome, my lady." Psyche looked up, startled, not from fear, but from emotion. That voice didn't sound like a servant. It felt like someone had been waiting for her for a long time. And if this was a dream, then it had style. Not the cliché kind where you hold hands in the rain, but the kind where you walk into your lover's house, and the house knows you better than the lover. Every echo in that palace seemed programmed by a heart that knew love, not through logic, but through a gentle instinct. She stepped through a doorway and saw 1,000 flowers bloom, even though it wasn't spring. A room, empty, but empty in a way that made you want to sit down and remember your childhood. Every room here wasn't meant to be lived in, but to be felt. Some spaces embraced her, some seemed to wait for her to cry. The palace said nothing, but somehow it understood. On some mornings, she found her hair done up with a comb she'd never touched. Sometimes, her dress flared gently as if someone helped her wear it. But when she turned, it was just air. No footsteps, no breath. Only the strange feeling that someone was smiling kindly behind her. Psyche often wondered, is this a dream that never ends? But dreams don't make your heart race like this. Psyche was loved, adored, but she never saw anyone. Especially not her husband. He only came at night, when she was already lying down, when light no longer existed. Please don't ask my name. Please don't try to see my face. Just trust me. That's enough. Easier said than done, because to love is to trust. But doubt is part of love too. And Psyche, the soul of a human, though she lived in a palace floating among clouds, was still human. A human who missed her parents, missed dinner arguments, even missed her 2 jealous sisters who used to hold her hand when they slept. And one day, she would ask to see them again, and everything would change. Zephyrus, the west wind, was often given light but awkward jobs. This time, the task was to fetch Psyche's 2 sisters from their dusty hometown to a palace hovering mid-sky. The 2 showed up like online commenters with a hot mic. OMG. The girl's not dead. Who's her sugar daddy? These interiors are top tier. Psyche, clueless, still ran out to hug them. They were once just 3 kids growing up together, running barefoot on hot stone tiles, hiding under their mother's robe when storms came. They used to fight over 1 pomegranate, then split it in tears. Used to hold hands when their father was away. Used to tuck each other in when one had a fever. But people grow up, and memories, like hair, start parting ways. Psyche told them about her faceless love, about the palace with no people but warmer than home. The two sisters looked at each other. A flicker crossed their eyes, what Olympus folks call green lightning. Up on Olympus, there's a rumor about a tiny god, no bigger than a pinky, called Envy. He has no weapons, no thunder, just a tiny mic and a whispering voice like a pro. Look closer. Does she really deserve what she has? Is her husband even real? You should be the one living in that palace. No one sees him. But many hear him, especially at family reunions. Jealousy. Not the kind like, I want that dress, but the kind like, why her and not me? One had a bald husband who snored like thunder and farted like a musical overture. The other married a guy with arthritis, whose every step creaked like old leather boots. Meanwhile, the youngest, once compared to a fly at a feast, now lived like a princess in a palace of mist. And so, jealousy brewed into a scheme. The second visit, they arrived with faces like mourners. So sad for you, sis, you've been tricked. They say your husband is a monster in disguise who only comes out at night. Psyche laughed, didn't believe at first, but the seed of doubt had been planted, watered with fake tears. Ah, you've never seen his face. Are you sure you even know who he is? Psyche began to wonder. If this were modern times, her sisters would have started a podcast called Women Who Break Curses, and the latest episode would be My Sister's Love Story with an Invisible Man and a CGI Castle. The video would hit 1 million views in half a day, with comments like, wait, what? A servant-less palace that serves gourmet. She's clearly cursed. I've got a weird feeling, girls. And when people love but can't see, they get scared. Scared of being blind. Scared that love is just some divine CGI trick. The sisters whispered their plan, with sympathetic faces like, we only want what's best for you. One hand rested on Psyche's hand, the other hidden, drawing up crime scene blueprints. Their voices harmonized with worry and scheming, like Greek fairy godmothers with hidden daggers. We're worried. What if it eats you? Be careful. What if it's not even human? When he sleeps, light a lamp. Or, if he's a beast, a snake with 3 heads, take the knife and strike. Then they left, leaving their little sister with an oil lamp in the dark and a heart cracking like an old ceramic bowl. She held the lamp like someone groping into her own soul. The trembling flame lit up not just fear of betrayal, but also the faint glow of leftover trust. Psyche's hands didn't shake from fear, but from knowing that, if her husband really was a monster, she'd lose her love. But if he was human, then with one flicker of this lamp, she might still lose everything. Psyche still loved. But now, love had a crack in it. And even the thinnest crack, hairline fine, can shatter the most beautiful glass. That night, there was no wind. No one called her name in a dream, only a trembling lamp flame, like a whisper that never became sound. Psyche, holding the lamp, stepped softly toward the bed. Her heart was divided, one half hoping her husband was human, beautiful, gentle, honest. As the other feared her sister was right, that she'd been lying next to a monster. In the dim yellow light, she saw a young man, not a demon, not a three-headed snake, just a young man, as beautiful as the dream itself. Skin like marble, wavy hair, wings folded behind his back like an angel who had just landed. Psyche stood there, breathless, not from fear, but from the realization that her love was real, and that she had doubted it. A drop of oil from the lamp, small as a tear, fell. It touched Cupid's shoulder. He woke instantly. The first thing he saw was his wife's face, holding a lamp, full of fear. "You didn't trust me." His voice wasn't angry, just sad. Not the sadness of someone insulted, but the sadness of a god who had just learned the first lesson about the limits of immortality, that no heart is immune to the pain of doubt. He didn't look at her like a husband scolding a wife, but like a child seeing their most treasured toy broken and knowing it can never be fixed. Sad, as if trust were a pair of wings, and now they were broken. Psyche knelt, wanting to explain, to hold him. But Cupid had already flown. No curse, just gone. A small sound echoed, not thunder, but the crack of her heart. No one dies from a single drop of oil, but many have died from the moment they realized they ruined the most beautiful thing they ever had. Psyche sat there, lamp still in one hand, the other reaching toward the empty space where her husband had vanished. The palace around her, once a song, now felt like a melody cut off mid-note. The flame still burned, but her heart didn't. The smell of oil lingered, sharp, like a reminder. Sometimes, what we see with light is not as precious as what we believe with our eyes closed. And it left her alone, in a palace fading like smoke. The ceiling cracked like eggshell, golden walls shattered into streaks of memory, hallways that once echoed with laughter stretched endlessly and fell silent. That palace didn't collapse in one crash. It disappeared like an illusion, slowly, cruelly, without looking back. Where there was music, now only wind. Where there was a home, now emptiness. Sometimes, love doesn't die from hatred. It dies from light arriving at the wrong moment. A drop of oil could also be the final one that overflows the cup. And Psyche, no longer a princess, but a person who had lost everything, just because she wanted to see clearly the one she loved. She stood, not because of hope, but because she couldn't sit forever in the ashes. One hand wiped her tears. One hand held her heart from falling out of her chest, and she began to walk, not knowing where, only knowing she had to. Because sometimes, a journey doesn't begin with light, but from the darkest place, where you realize that if you still love, you must search. No map, no instructions, no Google Maps, just a broken heart and feet that wouldn't stop. Psyche began the greatest journey of her life, not to seek glory like Achilles, nor strategy like Odysseus, but for an unfinished kiss. She crossed plains, climbed hills. At every place, she asked just one question. Has anyone seen the god of love? People looked at her like a sleepwalker. Others pitied her, because who searches for a god on foot? But Psyche didn't stop, because if love is real, it leaves a trace, even if it's just a silver feather caught in the wind. And strangely, nature seemed to understand her sorrow. Grass grew softer under her weary steps. Birds didn't sing, but flew with her for a while. In one place, a breeze brushed her cloak away from thorny brambles. She wasn't sure if it was coincidence or silent empathy from the world. She arrived at Demeter's temple, hoping the goddess would help. "Oh," Demeter sighed, "I pity you, but I dare not anger Venus." Psyche nodded, as if already used to no one standing by her. She stepped out of the temple, sunlight patching her shoulders. She paused for a moment and looked up, not to hope something would fall from the sky, but to stop the tears from falling into her chest. Her sadness had stopped crying. It simply weighed down, silent and longer than a lifetime. Like all the women in Greek mythology, she understood no one would rescue her. If she wanted to keep her love, she had to be the hero herself. Next, the temple of Hera, goddess of marriage. But Hera also turned away. Your love is not the concern of gods, but a matter of mistakes. Finally, Psyche reached the palace of her greatest enemy, the goddess Venus. She should have been afraid, but fear had been replaced by something else, a determination to go to the end. Venus saw her and laughed with scorn. This girl came to beg me. Fine, want your husband back. You have to work for it. And so began a list of tasks that even Hercules would sigh at. Task 1. Sort grains, millet, wheat, beans, poppy seeds, a mountain of chaos. Psyche looked at the basket of seeds and sat down, ready to cry. But an army of ants arrived, whispering, sorting each grain as if they too had known love. Some wore straw hats made of husks. Some carried silk bags made of spider thread, marching like a tiny army at a festival. One old ant looked up and whispered, "We've seen love in the soil, when roots entwine under rain. That's why we understand you." Task 2. Gather golden fleece from a herd of vicious rams. Psyche was about to give up when a reed by the stream whispered, "Wait until noon, they'll nap." That reed didn't just whisper like wind. It spoke with a raspy voice of one who's lived long and stood still through too many seasons. "I've seen many pass here," it said. "Most give up at the first glimpse of ram's horns, but you have the eyes of someone who's lost more than once." Task 3. Fetch sacred water from a steep mountain peak. An eagle, once helped by Cupid, flew in to aid her. That eagle, once a warrior who had loved the goddess unrequited, had asked Cupid to shoot an arrow for him. It failed. Love didn't bloom, but gratitude remained. Now, it flapped its wings, flying against the wind, as if it was flying against its own memories. Task 4. Descend to the underworld to fetch a beauty box from Persephone. Psyche nearly died of despair, but the stones of a tower whispered the way, told her to bring cake and coins to bribe Cerberus and Charon. One stone even joked, "Bring extra cake in case the dog's extra hungry today." And when she stepped into the darkness, the ground beneath her warmed, as if even the earth worried. The final task: do not open the box. And like all Greek characters, she did. Inside the box was not beauty, but a sleep spell. Psyche collapsed, light as an autumn leaf, and right then, Cupid arrived. His kiss wasn't just forgiveness, it was resurrection. If you think being a daughter-in-law in a mortal family is hard, try being one in the house of the goddess Venus. Not only did Psyche have a demanding mother-in-law, she also had to face the tribe of divine in-laws, those who never believed in love between gods and mortals, especially not between a scorned maiden and an angel who accidentally fell in love. After Cupid's reviving kiss, Psyche awoke, not in a splendid castle, but amid countless stairs, as if she were a dessert that had accidentally fallen onto the divine feast table. And Cupid, with his wound healed, was no longer the boy hiding from his mother, but now the official lover, standing before the heavenly court, speaking to Jupiter. "Father, I love her." That sentence silenced Olympus for 3 seconds. Then came the tapping sound of Venus's fingernails on her stone throne. A mortal. Let's see if she's worthy of becoming a goddess. And so began the official test. No paper, no pen, no time limit, only the eyes of the gods and enough pressure to crack a walnut. Aphrodite opened 99 bottles of perfume, all smelling identical, as if mixed by the same Greek merchant in an Athens market. "Choose the scent of loyalty," she said. Psyche closed her eyes, didn't choose, but asked, "If loyalty has a scent, why does it fade so easily?" Athena asked, "What does unconditional love mean?" Psyche didn't answer. She simply looked up, her eyes filled with the cracks left by every time she had been abandoned. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, tilted her head and asked, "If you could choose the first dish to eat upon entering immortality, what would it be?" Without hesitation, Psyche replied, "Thin porridge." Because some days hurt so much, even swallowing is hard. Psyche was brought to the grand hall, where sunlight shone directly on her forehead. Above the dome, the ancient mythological murals seemed to swirl with each beat of her heart. A black owl flew by silently, omen or warning, she didn't know. But she stood tall, as if her father, the one who had led her up the hill to marry a ghost, was watching from afar. Apollo played the lyre, each note a wordless question. "What do you have besides beauty?" Hermes circled around, whispering to the wind, as if calculating how fast the bride could run if asked. "When will you give us grandchildren?" Ares glanced, hand on sword, in case the daughter-in-law dared to be rude. But Psyche didn't flinch, because she knew if love must be proven, she had the scars to show it. Jupiter raised his hand. An immortal goblet was brought forth. Drink. From now on, you will no longer be mortal. And just like that, with one sip as clear as moonlight, Psyche, the girl once exiled, deceived, abandoned, became a goddess. Her body transformed. No more exhaustion from journeys. No more burns from that drop of oil. But her heart remained human, full of scars, and that was exactly what made the god stare longer than usual. Not because she was a princess, not because she was beautiful, but because she loved deeply enough and waited long enough to reach the edge of mythology. Venus, with nothing else to do, had to raise her head and force a polite smile, the kind Greek mothers-in-law give when they realize their daughter-in-law will touch the divine hearth. The wedding took place on Olympus, with flutes, floral scents. Even Cerberus kept locked away so he wouldn't scare the guests. And while the gods toasted, a tiny ant crawled out from under the table, the same one that helped her sort beans that day, and whispered to a drop of red wine, "See, love doesn't need to be divine to be accepted, just persistent." Chapter 8. The underworld isn't as scary as a cosmetic box. There are things that sound as easy as pie. For example, bringing a cosmetic box back from the underworld for your mother-in-law. Not just any box, but one that holds a bit of divine beauty from the goddess Persephone, wife of the lord of the underworld, who never needed blush because her face alone silenced souls. Ah, the task sounded like a product ad. Go to the underworld, past the three-headed dog, collect eternal beauty, don't die, don't open the box. As easy as winning Miss Universe without ever getting a full night's sleep. Before setting off, Psyche stood before the gate leading to the underworld, a one-way ticket with no return. She didn't cry, no tears left to shed. Just a silence stretched tight like a harp string, and a quiet question. Being the wife of a god, does it really require completing the quests of Odysseus, Perseus, and Hercules combined? The wind underground wasn't like the wind on earth. It didn't blow through your hair. It slipped into your throat, making you hear your own breath weaken. I and Psyche, tiny amid the cold stone pedestal, took a deep breath. Only one way left. Step forward into the place where sunlight never touches. The journey was not romantic. No blazing torches, no songs of escort. Only howling wind, rolling stones in the distance, and a dim light that flickered like a trembling candle. Charon, the ferryman, looked at her with eyes as cold as the river Styx. He said nothing, but when Psyche offered 2 coins as instructed, he nodded, lifting his oar heavy as judgment. Cerberus, the 3-headed dog, wasn't overly bloodthirsty, just too hungry. 2 loaves of bread thrown his way made all 3 heads nod like house dogs welcoming their master home. With a relieved sigh, Psyche continued, through the iron gate, through the garden of the dead, to Persephone's palace. One the box was handed to her with both of the goddess's hands, black, small, ice cold, as if it contained the whole Greek night. "Don't open it," Persephone warned. But just like when your parents say, "Don't touch the socket," curiosity always whispers, "Just one little peek." Psyche held the box like she was holding both challenge and prize, divine beauty, or a curse with no way back. On the return journey, the first light she saw wasn't sunlight, but the hazy thought in her mind. Just a little peek. See what immortal beauty looks like. The lid popped open. No face cream, no highlighter, just a thick black mist, scentless, colorless, silent, but enough to stop a heart. Psyche collapsed like a flower drained of all light, eyes closed, lips sealed, and time stood still, as if no girl had ever dared to dream of being more beautiful than what the gods allowed. In that moment, ancient Greece learned one thing. Power doesn't lie in beauty, but in not needing to open the box, to know you are already beautiful enough. But in ancient Greece, it once saved a single person from death, from a cursed sleep, from a despair deeper than the bottom of the Styx. Cupid flew off, silver wings still scarred, but this time without his bow. No more mother's orders, no more schemes, only one thing left in his heart, to find the girl who once believed in him, before all memories turned to ash. And he found her, not at a wedding, not among flower petals, but lying still on the ground, arms still wrapped around the box like she was clinging to her own mistake. He said nothing, didn't call her name, just leaned down and gently kissed the lips that had fallen silent, the same lips that once whispered love without ever seeing his face. In that moment, a thread of light, thin as morning mist, slipped from the kiss and melted into Psyche's skin. Her breath returned, her fingers twitched, her eyes opened, and saw what she never thought could be forgiven. Her former lover, still standing there, still loving her. "You forgave me?" Psyche asked, with the voice of someone who couldn't believe in miracles. "I never left," Cupid replied, with the voice of a god who had learned how to love like a mortal. No need for congratulations, no thunder, just one held hand, and two souls who now understood. Love doesn't have to be perfect to endure. And trust, though once shattered, can bloom again, in the moment when no one dares to hope. Chapter 10. Ascending to the Heavens. When true love gets you a place in the god's household, not everyone who loves a god gets to marry into heaven. Usually, you'd be turned into a tree, struck in the heart by a rock, or get assigned a pile of mother-in-law quests like wipe the sky dome with a damp cloth. But Psyche was different. After everything she'd been through, jealousy, betrayal, love-driven madness, even a freezing underworld with no phone signal, it was time for fate to upgrade her membership. Cupid flew straight to the top of Olympus. No asking Mum, no scheduling ahead. Just knocked on the sky's gates with the heart of a love-struck boy. "I want my wife to be immortal. That's all. The gods, in the middle of sipping nectar and gossiping about Hera's latest fight with Zeus, fell silent. A human asking to join heaven. Ake, a girl who once opened a box of beauty and fell into death-like sleep. But then Zeus, in a voice deep as autumn thunder, said just one thing. If the love is true, even heaven must open its doors. Zeus himself poured a cup of ambrosia, the drink of gods, handed it to Psyche. No grand speeches, no flowery blessings, just a quiet look that said, "We tested you, and you didn't fall." She drank, and from that moment, no mortal blood ran in her veins. The girl who once cried quietly from loneliness, who once fell because of her own mistake, now stood among the stars and became one. Venus, sitting in a corner, still didn't look thrilled. Being a Greek mother-in-law isn't easy to let go. But when she saw her son smile, the first real smile after days of sulking, she muttered, "Well, the daughter-in-law's not that bad." At least she knew to ask for a beauty box. The wedding took place in the sky. Apollo played the harp. Dionysus opened the bar. Hera, momentarily forgetting her jealousy, picked out the wedding dress herself because the other goddesses had fashion sense that was way too glittery. And Psyche, holding Cupid's hand, no longer worried about candles, dripping oil, or rumors of deadly snakes. She only knew one thing. When love is real, it will always find its way to the heavens. It's rare for a bride to go from a stone bed in the underworld to a sky blue banquet table in less than a single chapter. Psyche, the girl once envied for her beauty, cast out for love, and knocked unconscious by a goddess's beauty box, was now invited to the most solemn wedding celebration in the heavens. The wedding of a mortal on Mount Olympus, among the gods. Not every myth is beautiful, but this time it really was. Apollo played the harp. The sky's breeze kept time. Hermes was the MC, wearing a glittering cape, speaking with the voice of a mythological podcast. Greetings to all gods and present souls. We are gathered here today to witness a marriage officially licensed by Zeus. Dionysus stood at the edge of the party, mixing divine cocktails, shouting non-stop, "Drink! If you're getting married, you drink. If you've ever had your heart broken, you also drink." Psyche, in a white gown embroidered with morning clouds, stepped out like a dream just waking. No longer mortal, no longer an outsider, but the wife of the god of love, officially recognized by Olympus. Venus still sat in the front row, chin resting on hand, lips in a slight pout. But seeing her son, Cupid, holding his wife's hand without glancing away like the last 100 times, she only sighed. Who could resist a love that dared to pass through the underworld? The wedding feast lasted 3 days and 3 nights. Every god brought a gift. Poseidon gave a seahorse. Athena gifted a warrior's helmet for those moments when a mother-in-law's words cut deep. Hera offered a bedspread set woven from raw lightning threads, so the couple won't argue during storms. When all the rites were complete, Zeus stood, raised his cup of ambrosia. Psyche, the first mortal Olympus has ever called, daughter-in-law. Silence. Then applause. Then wine poured across the sky, and the stars began twinkling like wedding lights, and somewhere far below, on earth, someone once told the tale. A girl who was once the symbol of human beauty had become the symbol of immortal love. After the wedding in the heavens, after the divine wine was served, after the gazes no longer carried suspicion, Psyche had officially become a star with a name. But the most miraculous thing was still growing inside her. No thunder, no prophecy, just an early morning on Mount Olympus. Sunlight draped like silk across her hair, and Psyche gently placed a hand on her belly, sensing another life beginning to bloom. Not a warrior, not a princess, but Voluptas, a child born of love, Cupid, and soul, Psyche. Her name meant delight, joy, the quiet happiness in your chest when you know you are loved without conditions. No myth had ever had a child like this. No legend ever recorded what happens when love is no longer forbidden, when a soul is fully embraced, and when a child is born from something no one has ever seen, but everyone has felt. Voluptas had no power to summon storms, no bow to shoot, no rule over the underworld, but when she smiled, the entire heavens paused. Athena stopped sharpening her sword. Ares stopped flexing his muscles. Dionysus stopped pouring wine, because the smile of that child could melt stone, calm clouds, and make even gods, though immortal, remember they once knew joy. Psyche lulled her child to sleep with stories she had lived, about the time she carried water from a mountaintop, about threading seeds in the dark, about the moment she fell because of a single drop of curiosity, and about the kiss that woke her, not by magic, but because someone waited and still believed. Cupid no longer hid his face. He now understood. To love is to be present, not when someone is at their best, but when they are at their weakest, most flawed, and still worthy of being held. Their story, like all fairy tales, was told again and again. But what no one could change was, Voluptas was here. As a reminder, if love is what lights the soul, then happiness is that light made real. If you ever found yourself wandering into a strange evening in ancient Athens, where flutes blended with clinking cups, where myths weren't just carved onto wine jugs, but drunk with, cried with, then maybe you stumbled past Dionysus's tavern. It wasn't in the textbooks, no set address. It appeared on full moon nights, when people wanted stories more than arguments, when someone had just fallen in love, fallen apart, or simply didn't know what to do next. Dionysus, the god of wine, of temporary forgetfulness, stood behind the counter, eyes sparkling as if he just remembered an old tale, smiling like someone who's heard every excuse to leave and every reason to return. Someone asked, "Is there a story you never get tired of telling?" Dionysus put the glass down, wiped its rim, tilted his head, the tale of Cupid and Psyche. And just like that, it began again. The story of a girl hated for being beautiful. The tale of a god who loved in secret. A story of trust, lost, tested, then found again. Of the underworld, of a beauty box, of ridiculous tasks that made you cry while doing them. And finally, of a kiss that stopped a heart, then made it beat again. No two listeners were the same. Some laughed because their love life had just as much drama. Some cried because they'd never been kissed like that. Some sat in silence, poured another drink, and thought of someone they had loved and lost. Dionysus didn't judge. His tavern wasn't for the right people, but for those who had loved deeply enough to do foolish things. And in that tavern, every ending was temporary. Anyone could be retold, forgiven, loved again, at least for one night. Cupid and Psyche, they didn't need to be there. Because in every toast, every whispered, "Did this really happen?" they appeared again. With a faint smile, a glimmer of light across the corner of the room, or simply a feeling that loving someone truly is always worth it. Maybe you're listening to this at 2 a.m. Maybe you're lying in bed, the lights are off, but your heart is still on. Maybe you're not crying, but you're not exactly at peace either. The story of Cupid and Psyche, it seems like just a myth. But really, it's you. It's when you love someone without seeing their face. It's when you believe, then doubt, then lose, and still wait. It's the nights you ask yourself, if I love enough, will they come back? Sometimes you're like Psyche, walking into the darkest place, with only the faint belief that at the end of the tunnel, someone is still waiting. And if you've ever opened a box out of curiosity, out of sadness, out of fear of being left behind, if you've ever fallen because of a stupid but honest decision, then you're not alone. Tonight, if you feel like you're descending into the underworld, please remember, Psyche once did too. And she came back, not perfect, not whole, but enough to be loved. Maybe you haven't met your Cupid yet. Maybe they're busy being mad at you, or learning how not to hide their face anymore. But if you still believe, then hold on to that little light inside you, like Psyche held her oil lamp. Like you are holding yourself through the night. Because in the end, the one who searches in the dark is the one who will be found. And if you're listening to this right now, you haven't lost your light. You're just closing your eyes for a moment to remember where it is.